Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Julio Suero. I'm the head of the software division here in Genealogia. It's a pleasure to greet all of you. It's our first webinar of this version number 2 of EIM. With me is Miss Begoña Garcia. It's our product manager of EIM, and she will be in charge of the session. Of course, we want to record the session for be able to send it after. We are going to have a live Q&A. So please, in the chat box, you can put all your questions during the session. After the session, we will read it, and Ms. Begoña will answer directly all of these precious questions. So, Begoña, thank you for attending, and the mic is all yours.
Thanks, Julio. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I'm really glad to be here today presenting you this new EIN version. Helping me today, my colleague Julio, you have just met, and also Federico and Antonio are helping on the backside. So, the purpose of today's session is to walk you through the updates of EIM, and hopefully, we will be able to solve all the doubts that you might have about those changes that you will experience when going from version 1 to version 2. Now, I will switch off my camera, and so you will have a better view of the presentation, and I will be coming back for the questions round. So hope you enjoy.
We will dedicate the first part of this session to review why an EIM version 2, what have been the focus areas and the updates, what are the considerations behind the new criteria, and who has helped us in every specific subject. And then we will go through some examples on what are the changes that you might expect in going from version 1 to version 2. The second part will be dedicated to answer your questions, so please do as many questions as needed. You can use the chat of the application to formulate these questions. EIM purpose is to motivate the industry transformation towards a more sustainable production, reflect the industry progression with regards to sustainability, and you probably agree that has been a great progress in the last years, and I hope that EIM has really helped here. And last but not least, to be aligned with the definition of what is and what is not sustainable, where there is also now greater consensus. These are the pillars of EIM since we launched it in 2011, when we decided to open the tool that we were using internally to drive our developments to the full garment industry. We create this tool to be continuously improved, and to have it update is our compromise with all EIM users. We have count for this update with a great team helping us to identify areas of focus to elevate EIM to a global standard, and we have also had great teams of professionals supporting us on doing it in the best possible way, keeping always the foundational principles of EIM. Goals of the new version are to go from a useful tool addressed to laundries but used by brands and owned and managed by Genealogia, to an industry standard owned by Genealogia but governed by a decision group that can work as a management and integration platform, always aligned with sustainable production definitions, and that not only allows but also encourages continuous improvement, and that it can as well be used as global communication tool. The EIM version 2 will be used as always. However, as user, you will have higher quality information coming from the EIM reports. Changes from version 1 to version 2 happens in 3 areas. One is the criteria for chemical scoring and classification that will affect the chemical impact. The worker impact, where we are updating the criteria for the evaluation of the impact, and also the benchmark, and the environmental threshold for water and energy impacts. Focusing on the chemical impact, in January 2022, we transferred the management of the EIM chemical database to experts in the chemical field. Cyvera, that is the third party managing the EIM chemical database, have been the key partners to develop a more scientific classification and scoring criteria. To be able to calculate the chemical impact, every product or formulation will be given a EIM chemical impact score. This score is represented by a number, calculating taking into consideration MRSL conformancy and hazard assessment, and a classification represented by a color, analog to the screen chemistry. Users will have access to the EIM chemical impact of every chemical listed in EIM, as well as to the CDHC level of conformancy and screen chemistry score each particular chemical has. The Cyvera toxicologist will follow these steps to generate the EIM chemical impact score. They will generate a score based on a hazard assessment following the screen chemistry methodology. In that case, the higher the level of disclosure, the more accurate the score can be. They will add a bonus to this first score for those chemicals having a higher CDHC level of achievement. And just a quick reminder here, the minimum requirement for a formulation to be listed in EIM is to have at least a CDHC level 1 third-party certification. According to this resulting number and the level of disclosure, the chemical will be classified into gray for those where the information is not enough for an accurate score, green for preferred chemicals, and that is chemicals with higher screen chemistry score and highest CDHC conformancy levels, orange for chemicals that are okay, and red for those to phase out. The last step to generate the EIM chemical impact will be to convert safer chemistry score into the EIM score scale. In screen chemistry, higher score means higher achievement, while higher scores in EIM means higher environmental impact. If you need more information about the scoring methodology and the necessary steps for a chemical supplier to have their chemical listed in EIM, you can contact directly the Cyvera team. The EIM chemical impact score will allow us to calculate the chemical impact of one recipe, considering all the different chemicals used in this recipe. We have been inspired also here with the screen chemistry scoring, so the quantity of the chemical used with regards to the total quantity of chemicals used in the formula will be affecting the chemical impact score. This introduced an additional difference with the previous version, where the quantity of the chemicals were not considered to calculate the impact, but now using more or less of one particular chemical can have an impact in the final score. A revision of the chemical impact required also a revision of the worker health. Hazard assessment considers environmental and human hazard, so these two aspects will be covered by the chemical impact category in this new version. The chemical component is then not anymore considered under the worker impact, which in this second version will be limited to the inherent hazard of the operations the workers do. The impact of each operation have been deeply analyzed by a specialized department of the Polytechnic University of Valencia called Ergonautas. The operations are related to the machines or tools used to make each operation. So that is why it's so important to make the correct selection from the EIM machine database when creating a step. The steps followed to determine and quantify the impact were for ergonautas to identify the common ergonomic risk and factors of each operation and classify the risk into low, medium or high. We have translated this into a 0, 1 or 2 risk class. With this, we have been able to punctuate every operation and related it to a machine or tool from the EIM machine database. So then the worker impact will be the sum of all the operation scores applied to a garment. Once we have quantified the impact, we need to classify using the environmental threshold. Since the quantifying criteria change, the threshold need to change as well. We have defined the new worker impact looking at the different techniques that can be used to create every detail of a vintage garment. The limits for green, orange and red are defined by the lowest, medium and highest possible scores by using those different techniques combinations. The last area of improvement considered is related to water and energy. The revision of the threshold for these two categories comes from the fact that more than 95% of the washes introduced in EIM show a green impact in water and in energy. This can mean different things. One, that a great progression of the industry has happened in the last years, which is absolutely true. Two, that the threshold is too lax. And three, a combination of the reasons 1 and 2, which is probably the correct explanation, since we know that there is still a big room for improvement. But why to improve if you are already good? Not to review this threshold will be completely against the EIM principle. So with this data, an adjustment of the threshold seemed to be necessary. So we asked Samera, a very specialized company, the analysis of the method that we follow to determine the first threshold. I have to say that it was almost 15 years ago, and the analysis of the data that we have collected from more than 365,000 processes that has been measured through EIM. The statistical analysis that Sumera did led to the conclusion that a huge reduction of the threshold was possible, and still accomplished that more than 33% of the processes show still a green score after the correction. However, for a smooth transition, and also due to the fact that the first threshold was set as per the most common processes analysis, and processes are defined by kilos of garments and not by units of garments, the first decision was to normalize the threshold to liters and kilowatt hours per kilo of garments processed instead of liters or kilowatt hours per garment produced. The resources needed for a garment will still be the information given in the report, but the classification following this threshold adjustment, and so the color that you will see will be adjusted according to the per kilo requirement. The second decision taken was to establish a system for the revision and adjustment of the water, energy and worker environmental threshold if necessary. So this revision will happen every 2 years, and the adjustment will be decided as per the statistical analysis of the 2 previous years following the statistical rules. Other improvements on version 2 are related to the information given and how it is displayed in the reports. You will have a process information where you can see the water and the energy requirements according to the recipe details, information related to the percentage of products used that compiles with CDHC in green. The ones that do not require yet a certification will be represented by an orange, and in gray those generics, meaning that the formulation used do not have a CDHC certificate or is not listed in EIM. The environmental information shows the information that is used to calculate the final EIM score, such as the effective water use that will be reduced for those cleaning and for those that are able to reuse, clean and reuse water, the chemical impact calculated from the EIM chemical impact score, or direct estimations on CO2 emission based on the effective energy used. So you can see these are fundamental changes. So you might expect changes as well in the analysis of the same process under the two different versions. The changes will depend a lot on the process, and we cannot really know in advance how big this difference is going to be. Some of the process might have even a better score when measuring them with version 2, but most of the cases will show a worse score using version 2 because it is a bit more exigent than the previous one. You will see a higher difference, for instance, when using potassium permanganate. PP blasting is considered a not sustainable process with high impact to worker health. Therefore, the new EIM will visualize this fact by scoring worker impact with the highest possible score in those processes that involve PP blasting. Equally happens with the stones. So even though stones are not chemical, from now, when using stones, your chemical impact will show red and the score will be close to 100. The weight of the garment will not change the data that you see under the water and energy impact. However, you might see a change in color when going from one version to the other. In the example here, your garment weighs the same, and so the data that you see is the same, but you can see a change in color indicating that you might expect a higher score in version 2. So now when we change the weight of the garment for the same process, your score will not change, since the water and the energy and the chemicals as well that we will need to process 1 kilo of garments will be the same. What will change with the weight variation will be the limits of water and energy permitted to remain in the green side. In the example, for a garment that weighs 500 grams, so the maximum quantity of water allowed for a green water score will be 17.5 liters. Finally, reasons for a higher score in version 2 can be consequence of the updates in the chemical classification and scoring. Since the chemicals are not longer considered under the work category, with this version 2, you will be able to easily identify where to act first. In the example you see here, the first work to do will be to replace the generic detergent for a certified or listed one. In the case of the example that we saw before with the stones clearly needed to be replaced to improve the score. In order to give enough time for all the chemicals already listed to go from version 1 to version 2, all formulations and so all the branded products has been given a transitional score based on the information from version 1. By the end of the year, all the chemicals needed to be rescored under the version 2 to be available to include in new reports. So, many thanks for your time, and now please is your time. So if you haven't done yet your questions, please feel free to do it. We will enter into the question turn. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for the explanation, Begoña. I think it's very, very clear and very, very interesting what the changes are. We have a couple of questions for you to answer. The first one will be Mr. Asmal, who he's asking if anyone using non-sustainable chemicals, is there any function in EIM software that this will be identified? So if anyone is not using sustainable chemicals, is there any function in EIM software that this will identify?
Yes, the chemical list, we have 3 different groups of chemicals. One group that are the formulations that minimum required, as mentioned, is to have the CDHC level 1 certificate. The second group could be the commodities, and all these commodities are analyzed following a screen chemistry methodology, and they are given a score already. You know, the one that you see in this version 2 is already the definitive one, and then there is this group of generic chemistry that we don't really know what are those chemicals. So in the case of using one chemical not considered green, the selection for the user needs to be this generic, and this generic have not a good punctuation because there is no information about the chemical being used.
Thank you. For Mr. Siet, can anyone influence the EIM score? Thought this is a system generate report?
The EIM is filled by the producer of the garment, so the ones that are doing the washing. So the EIM reports are based on trustful relationship between the receiver of the information and the creator of the information. And we have implement measures like the accreditation program that will ensure that the people that is using the EIM is able to generate the correct scores. So the information that is given in EIM, it's really relevant. So we encourage and we train all the EIM users so that they are able to give the correct information.
Okay, thank you. Rachel is asking, is it fair that a score can be low impact if one of the metrics is high impact and others are low? I think a facility with any high impact scores should only be able to get an overall score of medium or high. So this is the question for Rachel Clark. Thank you.
So thank you for the recommendation. We can consider this as a next improvement step. Nowadays, the EIM considers the weight of each category in the EIM is 25%. 4 categories weights the same into the system. And yes, so you can have a very bad score in one of the categories, but if the other 3 are very good, so you still can have a reasonable good score. That is also why when giving an EIM report, you have the 4 different categories identify, quantify, but also classify, so that you can see if they are in the red, yellow, or green area, so that every user and every brand can also take the decisions based on this individual information in addition to the final EIM score.
Thank you, Mr. Siet again. How can get the chemical data? What non-brand chemical used, even if EAM score is green?
When, as mentioned before, each chemical will have a weight in the final EIM chemical impact score. So the more chemicals you use that are analyzed and scored, the more probabilities to have better score. The more chemicals you use that are generic, so that they are not listed in EIM, and because they are not listed, or because they do not have these certifications, then the score will be worse.
Well noted. Mr. Abdullah is asking, how as a retailer we will justify vendor EIM score is correct? Is there any option to check correct EIM through machine?
This possibility is not yet available, right? As mentioned before, this is based on trustful relationship between vendors and buyers. And then additionally, we are working also with a third company that is defining a verification and validation system of the EIM report for anyone that needs this third-party validation.
Got it. Adler Sabas is asking, which toxicological test will Cyvera apply to chemicals, and exactly in which standards?
I will refer you to the Cyvera team to those very specific questions, right? They have and they are collecting all the information through a platform that it's called Cyvera Dance. So, but as mentioned, I prefer you to make direct those questions to those very technical and detailed questions directly to the Cyvera team. All the information on how the scores are done are available in the EIM documentations, and then for those very technical and specific details, please contact them directly.
Thank you, Begoña. Mr. Mohammed Ben is asking, can the system be guaranteed of respecting the RSL list?
Yes, if you are using the chemicals that are listed there, since, as mentioned before, every chemical in the database needs to have the CDHC conformancy certificate by a third party, right? So this is guaranteeing that you are compiling with the MRSL.
Okay, thank you. Sarah is asking a very good question, and I think everyone have more or less the same. When will version 2 be rolled out, and how long we can claim low impact if we are using already a score of version 1?
So for a month, for a bit more than a month, the two versions have been co-living, right? But it could be, the plan is that the 1st of October, version 2 replace completely version 1. So there will not be the possibility to generate new EIM reports using EIM version 1. Of course, the EIM version 1 process that has been measured there will be there still, right? But there will not be the possibility to create new scores with the old version by the 1st of October.
Thank you. We still have 14 minutes to get to the questions. Thank you all for these amazing ones. Mr. Balash is asking if there's any testing body or external validator for the EIM score, Begoña.
We have launched this program, right, on accreditation to be sure that everyone is introducing the data in the correct way. And there is a third party third-party company that it's defining the validation system. So there are a few third companies that can help you if you need to validate EIM reports by on-site inspection directly.
Thank you. For the question of Godfrey, I think it's some technical issue because it's when I press down the export word, an icon message in red appear and nothing is downloaded. So Godfrey, for this one, we could take care of this directly with you because it's a specific mistake. If you can write us your email, we will for sure be in contact with you. Palash again is asking, does Genealogia has any own promotional tag to promote the garments?
Yes, we have created a label. Every EIM user that has gone through the accreditation program can use. So you just need to contact us at the EIM mail, right? So eim@genealogia.com, and let us know what are your needs. So we will put you together with the marketing team and provide you with these labels you can put directly into the garments.
Thank you. Here in the chat box, our colleague Federico will write you the eim@genealogia.com, as Begoña is mentioning, for any questions you may have. The next question is for Tiwanka. It's asking, for a proper cyber toxicity assessment, you need full CAS disclosure. Since the most of the chemicals do not disclosure full CAS, how this will work?
They have created like three different possibilities to make the analysis. So the minimum requirements and a CDHC valid third-party certificate plus the material safety data sheet, then the 100% disclosure and the last and the highest level of conformity, of disclosure could be screen chemistry. So they are used to manage this kind of information, and these are the three different possibilities that they have given to the chemical suppliers in order to be able to list the chemicals in EIM, so that it seems that the screen chemistry is very demanding on so they have create all these different steps additionally, so that it's easy for the chemical supplier give the required information.
Thank you. The next question is for Florence. Florence is asking if there's any missing data or missing step from any laundry that put this information, will they get a notification that the final score cannot be calculated? She's asking because I recently saw a product score without any drying step, for instance.
As mentioned before, EIM it's introduced by the washer. We train them specifically to avoid this kind of things happening. But a process depends very much on who is doing the process. So if this information is not given to the system do not have the possibility to know that there is a misstep on that point, right? So in that case, the recommendation would be to do on-site specifications to see what are the difficulties for this particular person that is filling the report, and try to teach them on the correct way to generate the scores. That is what is the purpose of the accreditation. So what is also that we are suggesting every EIM user to go through this program, and that everyone that is creating EIM reports follow this program, so that everyone is understanding the tool in the same way, and we ensure that everyone is understanding that all the different steps need to be described in a recipe.
Thank you, Begoña. Mr. Set again, thank you for being so participate. In this case, he's asking, would like to get a little bit more of information about how the score of the worker impacts is going in the EIM version 2, Begoña.
Mhm. We have had also, you have all the information, detailed information, and also the report that was delivered by this third party that make this very deep report. I really recommend all the users to check this information. It's very interesting, and you will understand very well how this has been transferred into the EIM. So all the documents, once you log it into the system, there is a document called considerations. This consideration document has also the annexes where that correspond to the reports that these third-party participants has delivered to us. So you can go through this report, and of course, if you have additional doubts on how everything has been considered, you can as well contact us with those specific doubts, and we will try to solve them out.
Thank you. Yeah, this is exactly for the next question of Helmi. It's why such a big difference between version 1 and version 2 for a specific wash, EcoStone. So in this case, Helmi, we can see the particular of this case with you directly. But more or less, Begoña, why is there's a difference in version 1, version 2, besides what you already explained to us in the webinar?
And the main difference that you will find in version 1 and version 2 comes because of these different, or more than different update criteria that we have implemented in this version. There is clear consensus now, or more consensus within the industry, that there are two, let's say, very well-established procedures that are PP blasting and there are stone washes, that it's kind of clear that we cannot claim that one wash is sustainable if these two if these two happens, or if these two sub-processes are part of the garments, right? So that is why you will see bigger discrepancy between version 1 and version 2, right? Because we are, let's say, more exigent on this and being aligned with what the industry is considered as more or less sustainable. And also, because there is big improvement on the considerations that are taken. So and also, you have this adjustment on the threshold based on the weight of the garment. So that is really making a difference, right? So if you have one particular example that you don't really understand why this difference, you can, of course, contact us, and we will try to explain you with as much as detail as we can.
Thank you. Before going to the Wanka question, Helmi is asking the difference again for green to orange. So it's exactly what Begoña was trying to explain. We will review with you if you have any doubts these examples, and we can see it in a personal call. For Tiwanka, he's asking for CDHC scoring, if this is the same of CDHC gateway, and if so, he's asking, or she's asking for the commodity chemicals. Can score these commodity chemicals because the commodity chemicals are not registered in the CDHC.
So CDHC Gateway and EIM are not yet connected, right? So all the information is managed through Cyvera. So the chemical supplier will need to give the necessary information to the Cyvera toxicological team in order to have the chemicals classified, scored, and listed in EIM. The commodities also, we have scoring it based on the assessment, on the analysis of the single cast ingredient. So we are following here again, a screen chemistry methodology for this analysis. You have all the details on the different on this in the documents as well that you can download from when logging into the tool in the considerations document. And I'm sure that the Cyber team will be supporting you in solving any doubt that you might have regarding also this consideration. But yes, in fact, in the breakdown of CDHC conformancy percentage, let's call it, right? So you have the green percentage. So the green part are those formulations that you select from the registered ones, from the listed ones. Those orange that are those commodities that do not require this conformancy, and then you will have the gray part, which are the generic ones, so that the ones that you cannot find in the system for one reason or another.
Thank you, Begoña. And for because the time it's almost running out, the last question will be for Mohammed. For the recipes in progress, which could be adjusted, amended as 1st of October, how can they handle? Probably he's saying we'll have different scores. So how they handle if they're already producing?
Mm-hmm. This should be at a user level decision or at a brand decision level, right? Where they need to decide from which moment they accept the version 1 and from which moment they only accept version 2, right? So you still have a little bit of time in case you need to, rescore some under version 2. Our recommendation would be everything that is already in production, just use the version 1. Everything that is new development or new production, start with the version 2. But as mentioned, that this is just a recommendation. Then it's at the user level and a brand level who needs to decide how to move from version 1 to version 2.
Thank you. And we still have the last. Grinding is a common process, but with high score, how can they get a better one? How they can replace it?
With the grinding. The grinding today, we don't have an alternative. We have the laser alternative, but we also understand it's a complicated one, right? So hopefully, this is on the hands of the industry to work together in order to find the best solution to, do grinding in a more safest way. There's still things that we need to address. And I think that to have this score in EIM will really show which are the priority areas for the industry to address.
Okay, thank you, Begoña. Help me, we will contact you because it's a specific case. Don't worry, we're not skipping it. Thank you all for attending, for being here. I hope you find it useful. And for sure, we will take your inquiries to eim@genealogia.com. Begoña, thank you again for the explanation. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks to all of you as well. And just a reminder, all the information related that we have reviewed today and all the detailed information on what are the scores behind are available in the EIM. So you can log in, you can download all this information. And again, as usual, we will be happy to solve any additional doubt that you may have. And many thanks for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have you here and have so much questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Begoña. It was so informative and complete, but now we're going to pass to the questions. We have one. It's a very long one, but first, because it's the one I want to prepare, it's one of the most common in the morning, because we have the first webinar in the morning, is when this change is going to start applying, when we are going to pass for version 1 to version 2.
Okay, so we opened the version 2 to every user in, it was coexisting with the previous version, with the version 1 for about 1 month. But the plan is that the 1st of October, only EIM version 2 is available for new processes. So that from the 1st of October, every new process reported in EIM should be measured under version 2.
Okay, thank you. We have one question here from Mr. Serdar. It's regarding the pumice stone. In this case, he's asking how this will vary it if they use a normal pumice stone versus, for example, an alternative. They can have a synthetic stone, and how will it vary it versus version 1 versus version 2?
Yes, so pumice stone is one of the focus for replacing and having a more sustainable finishes. There are these many different alternatives, synthetic stones and other processes and other chemicals and other flux of process we are starting to see as alternatives to have the stone wash look. So the synthetic pumice stones as well, they need also to be, the information need to be submitted to the Cyvera, which will make the analysis and classify and score those stones too, so that depending on the rate, they will affecting one or other way the final score.
Okay, thank you. And one of the other questions that we review in the morning, and I think it's very informative, is what happened with the previous scores, the one they have in version 1, and now that we switch in October 1st to version 2, what will happen with both alternatives?
So all the processes measured under version 1 will remain as they were created. So this is part of your database. So that could be always, you will have always the possibility to select these processes, check and view under, version 1 rules. If you want, they will not be able to edit it. So to prevent some, kind of accidents and losing the information that you have in your database. So if you want to have one process compare and the two versions, you will, need to create a new one and by importing this version 1 process, right? So as usual, we don't want you to lose a lot of time in creating processes and making these comparison exercises. But the important thing is that EIM version 1 scores created under version 1. Of course, that could be part of your database and will remain as the moment you create them.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. I encourage everyone to put your questions here in the chat box. Feel free to do it. Also, we have the email eim@genealogia.com if you have any further questions besides the one you can ask today. And Begoña, one of the many topics that is the most relevant is chemicals. So what happens if I cannot find my chemical or my supplier is not listed, or I want to have more details regarding the behavior of this part of the EIM score?
Mm-hmm. So we have transferred completely the management of the chemicals to a third party, Cyvera, as we have been, discussing previously. So you can contact directly them at. I can tell you the mail right now. It's support at Cyvera at support or sorry, I need to check and tell you, but it's you can contact them directly to the support email. They would be pleased to answer any questions, and we can, even if you think it's necessary and important, we can work together with them and prepare a webinar specific for that specific matter if you need it.
Okay. So just the last one in this case, we know it's there's someone put it here. Thank you very much. Support at cyvera.com is the email.
Betsy.
Thank you, Betsy. And well, the one of the also the topics is Of course, this changes when we have an existing license. Sometimes when you do upgrades, increases the price. When I have to change something, this will vary the price for existing users or new users. There's anything else they have to pay to obtain this version 2?
No, this is part of our compromise with every EIM user, so they will have direct access to this version too. So there is no additional fees for this to be, using the EIM version 2.
Okay, thanks. And here have another extra question is in the same recipe input in EIM versus version 1 score is 42 and the version 2 is 63. Why the difference?
Yeah, so the difference, you need to find the answer based on what we have been discussing today, right? So we have changed, not changed, we have updated the criteria for chemicals, we have updated the criteria for worker impact, and we have updated the benchmark. So we need to see, as mentioned, there is no a rule that tells us why you are having a different score. So every process needs to be treated independently, but the reasons why is because these criteria have changed, so that might affect your score. So if anyone is not able to find the answer with the information that has been shared and the documents that are available in the EIM, when you log in, you have some documents that you can download explaining what are these differences. But if you cannot find the reasons, you can just email us and we will analyze this particular case and try to give you the correct answers.
Thank you. We will write the email, eim@genealogia.com is the one you can write us your answers, your questions, and for sure, we invite you if you have any other. We have still a couple of minutes. If not, Begoña, any last comment, any last thoughts you want to share with the audience regarding this new version?
Well, just to say that I think this was really, that we have, really achieve a good goal, right? That I hope that even if there could be this transitional period, you get used very soon, and that we are here to answer any additional question that you may have, and that we are here, to help you to understand and help you in this transition period. And thank you very much for being part of of the EIM users.
No, thanks to you, thanks to all the Genealogia team, and for sure, this recording will be shared with you. We will notify you the way you can obtain it. We really appreciate all the time and the assistance. For sure, remember we have the eim@genealogia.com for any further doubt. And thank you for attending. I don't see any other question, Begoña, so I think everything it's clear. Thank you so much and have a lovely morning or evening.
Thank you.